here to all of us. Dr. Tristram Wyatt, a very good friend of mine. He is both a scientist and an activist, part of Extinction Rebellion Scientists, senior researcher, fellow at the University of Oxford. So I'd like to invite Tristram to maybe not terrify you with the science. I think everybody here really knows what the crisis is about, but I would like to hear from you, Tristram.
Well, thanks for that welcome. And you wouldn't be here, as people have said, if you weren't following the science. I study animal behaviour, in particular the smells that animals use to communicate. That's pheromones, armpits across the animal kingdom, and worse. And in 2018, I was starting to edit the next edition of a prize-winning book all about pheromones and animal behaviour. And what I quickly realised was that it was basically going to be a book of obituaries, of the animals that would be dying in the lifetime of the students who would be reading the book. And that was a powerful reason for changing my motivation and becoming an activist scientist. Now, when we're doing our protests, we wear our trademark white lab coats. The doctors have their scrubs, we have our lab coats. Most of us work on data, we have to go and buy one. But it's a very effective symbol of what we're doing. And I think it's very important that the general public sees scientists at protests sufficiently concerned that we're out there. And what it shows is we are so concerned that we are out there protesting as scientists. We know what we're doing, we understand the science, we're out there. And this month, as previous speakers have mentioned, and as you'll have been reading this morning with Roger Harabin's excellent piece in The Guardian, as scientists and members of the general public, it's perhaps one of the scariest months of my life. Every day there is something new. There's a new record being broken, whether it's 52 degrees in China, was it today or yesterday? 50 degrees in Sicily. It's relentless. And despite COP after COP, the carbon dioxide levels continue to rise and the rate of rise continues. And we're at 1.2 already, and the thing that we just couldn't anticipate is the unexpected effect of these heat domes, and if it's not wildfires, it's floods. And the thing which I think a lot of us didn't anticipate is how quickly things could go wrong. I had in my mind this very gradual evolutionary change, and it's turned out it's not like that. And it's coming closer to home. One of the things that's really concerning me is the effect on food. And I know a lot of you are also aware of this. But if you think of what's happening in Spain, they're running out of water and we're going above the temperatures that crops can grow. And that's where, as a nation, we get a lot of what we eat. And that's not just thinking about what the environment's going to eat. So we really are moving to a stage where it's getting out of control. We can't take back the carbon dioxide at the moment. That's a pipe dream. What we have to do is leave the fossil fuels in the ground. And as has been mentioned, if we go to the government, what we're hearing instead is 100 new licenses. And that just stops oil's demand, which is leave it in the ground, stop developing new fossil fuels. And that, of course, as has been mentioned, is what the United Nations International Energy Agency has argued, and it's also what the government's own Climate Change Committee has said. They just won't listen. Now, 6 months ago, scientists at Oxford had an opportunity to try something different for getting ideas across. And the choice was poetry or stand-up. And I thought stand-up would be less scary. I know there were writers rebel here who would actually argue the opposite. So we were sent on a stand-up course, and at the end of it, we had to obviously stand up. So where it went was, and this is just a snippet to end my time. Good evening. I'm a right-wing newspaper editor's wet dream. And that's not a nice thought. I'm a walking caricature of what, and it's usually he, would imagine is an activist scientist. I'm white, I'm middle class, and my name is Tristram. He would attack, ridicule my life of hardship, from being a student at Cambridge to being a professor for 20 years at Oxford. If we're talking about ecology, my natural habitat must surely be Waitrose. It's a shop so posh that Prince Charles chose it to sell his biscuits. Now, I'm not as posh as Charles, but I am a member of the 1%. I will never forget the moment when my husband and I had a house in London and a house in Oxford. And one evening we were in a London Waitrose, and he shouted out across the crowded store, "Tristram, do we have smoky sesame seed oil in our house at Oxford?" And 3 Tristrams turned around. So we really are in that natural habitat. Now, to get serious again, what we have to do as scientists is be out there supporting Just Stop Oil. The scientists marched on one of the slow marches on Tuesday in solidarity. We're going to do it again. And one of the strange things is that Just Stop Oil is listening to the science, but the government is not. Thank you.